In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 practical examples of how to use reality transurfing in your life in a very powerful way, and I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can apply it so that you get the results that you want faster than ever. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron, and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to use reality transurfing in a practical type sense, and 3 examples that I've noticed either in my own life or through observing other people that has worked very powerfully. Now, first off, before I get into it, let me explain some of the ideas of reality transurfing so that you're like, yo, where's the context for this video? And you're like, okay, I kind of get it. And that is, first off, reality transurfing, very powerful process. It's so powerful because it helps us understand how to manifest from a much more powerful place. Like, maybe like the old way of doing it, like the traditional way we understand the law of attraction is that we're here, we want to go here, and what we do is we have to will ourselves, we have to desire it, and that desire many times reinforces in the present moment that's like, yo, that thing that I want over there isn't over here, so I feel resistance. So instead, the key is to feel the emotions from over here, now in the present moment, through the awareness that there's an infinite number of parallel realities that exist, and that because of that you can start to embody the feelings, the emotions, and the thoughts of the one that would be doing exactly what you love to be doing in the state of being that you would prefer. Now, this book was written by Vadim Zeland in Russia, and it's now been translated to English and a whole bunch of different languages. It's starting to get a lot more popularity. And it has to do with a couple key concepts. One of them is that intention is very powerful. If you simply set more intentions, you are going to start to shift to the realities that you want, because in what is called the space of variations, that's like the infinite parallel realities that exist, there is an infinite number of parallel realities, and what we think of as time is actually the movement through those different parallel realities. Now, of course, there's another part of this. It goes deeper because their thoughts that we have an electromagnetic type reality, even if we can't see those thoughts. So this means that while you're thinking of certain things, you're building certain momentum through those parallel realities coming into your life experience, or to you at least perceiving of those. So what also happens is, because we are collectively creating our reality with other people, we are also adding onto what are called these thought structures, which are called pendulums, which are then something that we begin to feel. So sometimes we think we're thinking our own thoughts, when in reality we're thinking the thoughts of these pendulums. So this is called social conditioning at the same time. So there are pendulums around everything. There are these thought structures, because our thoughts have an electromagnetic type reality. There are these thought structures that are in a way like a bubble. Think of it like a bubble around the earth. And we have certain thoughts that we may think and we may see and feel a lot of momentum towards, but it may just because that has a strong energy pull, because a lot of other people, they're thinking the same things too. So think about this like in the form of a like football team, baseball team, hockey team, any team you can imagine. Think about this in the form of Republican, Democrat, Independent, Anarchist, anything you can think of. If you have certain beliefs and you feel the pull of it, you have to ask yourself, is this really my belief, or is this something I feel triggered because of conditioning? So the news, for example, does a great job at this, because what they do is they say, look at this, and then you say, oh man, that triggers me, and then you start to feed into it, and that emotion is pulling you, and therefore you can't really create your own reality in a powerful way, because the emotions that you have are being depleted through that quote-unquote pendulum. So how do you get out of this? Well, you become aware. You got to become aware of what you're thinking. You got to become aware and observe those thoughts. The only way to get through it is not to fight it. You may say, oh, I'm not this Democrat, Republican, or Independent, Anarchist, whatever. I am myself. But you don't fight it. You say, I just observe it. That exists for some people. That exists for some people. I choose to just observe, therefore not getting banged around with this energy. So that's important. The last part I'll talk about, I always explain these in the beginning of the videos. It's just to give it context. I know that you've maybe heard this a million times before, and it helps wire it in as well. Last part of it though, decrease in importance. This is the game changer. This is the thing that I get so many people that comment and they go, yo, this reality transurfing has changed my life. Thank you so much for introducing to me, because I decreased importance. Also, I created a free meditation that's in the description box that will help you and show you exactly how to decrease importance in your life with what you want to create, so that you increase the probability that you experience it. Feel free to download that in the top of the description box. I listen to it. I recommend you listen to it for 21 days. I listen to it as well. I find it very powerful. And I think that if you use it, you'll start to see results in a much faster way. So decrease in importance. Anytime we put something on a pedestal, we immediately distance ourselves from it because we're making it very important. There are, metaphorically speaking, these balancing factors that come into play that neutralize that energy. So if you're making it very important that this thing goes really well with this person that you're attracted to, then what happens, you either create resistance, things just don't work out because the balancing factors come into play to neutralize it. So you can't give things excess meaning. You have to more of see it as a part of who you are. A lot of that has to do with our self-image. If we don't see ourselves as worthy of being around someone or being with someone, then what happens? Because we don't see ourselves as worthy, that gets taken away from us. If we see it as natural, as comfortable for us to be around people that we like to be around, then guess what? That's a natural part of who we are. So it's not about making it very important, it's about neutralizing it and seeing it just as a natural part of who we are. So what are 3 practical examples of decreasing importance that we can begin to see in our life? Well, one of them I'll actually share with you. I was moving into this place about less than a week ago. When I was moving in, I put on a podcast while I was here, or while I was getting my stuff ready at the other house, and I was like packing and stuff, and I was like taking apart the bed, and I put on a podcast of Joe Rogan, who was interviewing Jim Jones. And Jim Jones is a UFC fighter who is like one of the best UFC fighters right now. I think he got caught though with steroids or something like that, and he's not fighting for a while. He's suspended, I think, for 3 years, which is like huge. And he was being interviewed, and he has like a reputation for being like this. He's like this beast fighter, but at the same time, he's like this wild guy that just like parties like crazy, gets like blackout drunk and like does crazy stuff. And he's gotten in trouble with the law and stuff as well. And it was interesting because like he talks about how he parties before he fights. So he'll party a week before he goes and he fights, and that's just part of his routine. And he says if he doesn't fight, he said one time he didn't do that, that was the one time he lost. Now this may be also self-fulfilling beliefs, but this is what I found was interesting. Joe Rogan asked him, said, why do you do that? Why do you party? Like, don't you think you could be so much better if you were to like actually stay disciplined the whole time leading up to a fight rather than partying like crazy a week before you go into the fight and then shaping up a couple days before the fight? That's what he said. He said, I always felt like if I partied a week before and if I ended up losing, that I could blame it on the partying so I could justify it and rationalize it in my own head. So it's almost like he wouldn't feel as guilty and his ego wouldn't take it as personally if he were to actually, lose if he was partying a week before. Now, what does that do? Well, what that does is that decreases importance because it's like he has all this resistance. If he were to go into it, his ego would feel like he had to defend it. If he went into the fight and he had, just like the same excuse, or he had like the same advantage as everyone else because he had trained for months and months and been so strict on his diet and everything, but instead he decreased importance. He doesn't know this. He ain't like, I read Reality Transurfing, I watch Aaron's videos, and that's what I decided to do. What he does though is he just knows that if he does that, then what happens is it kind of takes the pressure off of him, and that pressure many times comes resistance. Now, some people respond better to pressure. There's some people like there are some athletes that kind of sometimes LeBron James, for example, in basketball, it's like sometimes he won't play with that much pressure until his team is down or until he absolutely has to show up. So it's kind of funny how that works. But what happens is that sometimes there's different ways that you could respond to that. Jim Jones says that he does that because then it takes the pressure off of him. That's one way that he decreases importance of what happens, because it's kind of like, well, I partied a week ago, I got blackout drunk, and I did that for 3 days in a row, so if I do lose, it's because of that, not because of anything to do with my fighting ability. And that works for him, but that's what he did, is he decreased the level of importance, and that's something that you can do as well. So next time you're having a fight, and you're thinking about, should I fight, then maybe just go get blackout drunk, and see what happens. I'm just kidding, but for real though, that's the analogy that you can use. And you can do that in different ways. You could just take the pressure off of yourself more so and see it as natural for you to accomplish what you want. But I was listening to it, I remember, and I thought to myself, I was like, yo, that's reality transurfing right there. I could see it. You don't know it, but that's how it gets applied. So that's one example. Now, what is another example? Well, I'm going to mention this because this also has to do with decreasing importance. But I have been around, I've grown up, and I've seen this either in my own life or I've seen this in other people's life as well. But anytime somebody really, really, really wants somebody else, attracted to somebody else, that causes a lot of resistance. I've seen it so many times where, not just because I have a YouTube channel, people come to me all the time, they're like, Aaron, how do I attract a specific person into my life? How do I attract an ex into my life? All of these things. I hear that all the time. But even friends just growing up, I had friends that were like, oh, you know, they break up with their girlfriend and they're like really down and they're kind of depressed, or, you know, a girlfriend of mine breaks up with a guy, or whatever it is, whatever the situation is. And what happens is that creates that resistance. And normally what I say is almost always the same thing. It's like, just focus on you, focus on the relationships you already have, focus on having fun with your friends, you know, kind of shift the focus. And the more that they do that, the more that they shift the focus, the more that they make it less important, because they're not giving it and putting everything on a pedestal of their unhappiness. I'm like, listen, you can be happy right now in the present moment, and by just having fun, you're in your own movie. This is kind of like the same thing, right? I say this a lot as well. Be the hero of your own movie. Don't be at the cameo in someone else's movie. The moment that you put someone and you become a cameo in someone else's movie, you made them the center of attention, and you've taken and given your power away. And the moment you do that is the moment you make them very important, and you make it about them and like how you can mold to their expectations and their reality. So, how do you bypass this? Well, what you must do is you must start to be in your own movie. You must start to see yourself as somebody that's worthy of having what you want in your life, and see it as natural for you to experience what you want, you know? And this is another thing with reality transurfing as well. There are many times that people are changing at a certain level, but they don't change their self-image. And when they don't change their self-image, their goals feel just a little bit outside of themselves. Their goals feel like it's almost unattainable. See it as natural for you to attain what you want. See it as a natural byproduct of who you are. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I've been more quote-unquote lucky in the last like 3 or 4 months than I ever have in my whole life. I think it's because I gained so much momentum with taking action, doing what I love, but I also just see it as natural for me. I see it as natural for me to be accomplishing what I want, and because of that, things are happening more quickly than ever. So that's something you can apply. Be aware of how you relate to that idea of relationships. How important do you make relationships in general with other people? And if you're making it really, really important, you may be creating that resistance. And instead, see it as natural for you to be the hero of your own movie. And as you see it as being natural, it will become something that is easier for you to attract into your life, because it's a part of who you are. All right, now the third example I want to give you has to do with using the goals you have in correlation with your heart. So for the longest time, I was becoming and trying to become like an entrepreneur, right? I was trying to make money outside my 9-to-5 job. At the time, I worked at Nordstrom's selling women's shoes, and then eventually I went to Barney's. And I had this idea that I would be passionate about making videos, but I don't know, maybe I wasn't sold on it yet, or maybe I just didn't think that I'd be able to do it, or was kind of like putting myself out there too much. I'm not sure what it was exactly. But what I did is I looked at different ways of making money online. So I went into something called Kindle publishing, which is where I learned how to make books, how to outsource books, how to make books that like people were looking for, and like self-help books pretty much that would help people do certain things, you know. So I got into that business because what I could do is I could make a book, I could you know, get the cover made it, and then I could put it online and sell for like $2 to $5, and it could be like a shorter book, but it could solve problems, it could really help people. And if I marketed it the right way, that could be something that made me a couple $100 a month. And if I did that with enough books, I could be making a lot of money. Well, I started doing that, and it was like I just wasn't passionate about it, to be honest with you. It was like I was putting all my energy into it, and it was like something that I thought would bring me abundance, but it wasn't something I was passionate about. And shortly after that, there were a couple other like side gigs I would do where there was like a lot of promise to make money doing it, but it was almost like things would just happen to where it just didn't really work out. And I believe that all happened for a reason. We could say that happened for a higher purpose, because it kind of had to show me that that wasn't my true path or my true calling. But at the same time, I just wasn't passionate about it, so things didn't really move. And with anything, when it comes to success, is you have to stay consistent. You know, I was talking about this with a friend the other day, because we have this one friend. It was like St. Patty's Day. I went to like a party, and I normally don't go out. I normally just stay, and I make videos and stuff like that. But I went out, and I was talking to a friend. We had this friend in high school who likes to do a million different things. Like, he will do this for a week, this for a week, this for a week. He gets really, really passionate when he does it, but then he moves on to the next thing. He moves on to the next thing. And basically what happened is he's never really got momentum with any of those because he had never focused on just one thing. Now the thing is though, is it's not just the focus, it has to be tied to your passion, because when you are doing something you're passionate about, the focus and the consistency comes easily. I've been making a video a day since February of last year. It's been over a year of straight videos every single day, and I would not be able to do it if I did not love to do it. I would have given up. And I see a lot of other people that are YouTubers that try to do daily, and a lot of times they're not able to do it, and it's because they may not enjoy the process as much. Not bagging on them, but it's you know, some people look at me and they're like, how does he do a video a day no matter what? I love making videos. I love making videos, so it's like, it's easy for me to do. So that's something that if you start to tag your passion, it's not hard to do all the time because you absolutely love doing it. Now, this is a game changer as well when it comes to money, because I have been more abundant than ever before in my whole life because I'm doing what I love and I'm following that feeling. And you know, I use this analogy as well as another example. Someone like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is one of the most wealthy people in the world. And you may look and say, well, he invests his money. It's like all a logical thing. Well, he's been investing and he's been studying that since he was like 7 or 8 years old. He's been reading books on investments. Can you believe that? Like that young, studying investments, reading books about it. And that's something he is absolutely passionate about. And he's one of the best in the world at what he does, at the kind of stock markets and how he knows how to, you know, use his money. And because of that, he's become that abundant. Now, that's because he's passionate about it. So you may not be passionate about that, and that's okay. However, I would say if you love what you do, it's so much easier for you to stay consistent. He's able to read newspapers every day on studying the markets. He's able to read, you know, he reads a lot, and he becomes very aware of the markets and stuff like that because he loves doing it. But would you be able to get up every day and read something you're not passionate about unless you were, you know, it's something passionate about just because you want to make money? Money is a byproduct of you doing your passion, you doing what you love. I found in my own life that when I trust the process and I do what I love, there's a frequency, there's a feeling. And in that feeling, this is what happens. There's an infinite number of parallel realities that exist. When you tap into the feeling, it increases your state of being and you perceive of more opportunities in your life, of more things that resonate with that state of being. So things happen in a much faster way, in a much more magical way. So what I encourage you to do is to start to pay more attention to what you're passionate about and decide to do certain things to generate that feeling more and more. And the more you generate that feeling, the more you'll get insight as to what you could be doing or how that could lead to you doing something that's productive that either helps, adds value to other people, or whether it's creating content online or whatever that is. But simply decide you're going to connect to your heart, and as you do that, things will happen in a very powerful way. So something I realized, I gave up trying to do all those things that I wasn't passionate about, and then I realized that what I could really do is what I really love doing, which is making videos, making content online, and following that thread. So remember that what you can begin to do is to decrease levels of importance by getting hammered drunk before you have a fight, and other than that, what you can do is you can decide that you're going to I'm joking about that, by the way, guys. Don't go get blackout drunk before fights. Instead, just decrease importance and don't give it that much excess meaning, okay? That's what you gotta do. Don't give anything excess meaning. Start to see it as natural, a part of just who you are. As you see your self-image for a part of who you are, everything will begin to change because it becomes more natural for you. It's just a part of who you are. And then that will allow you to then resonate with your desires in a very powerful way because you're not creating resistance. From that point, start to focus more on your goals, and goals in the sense of connected to your heart. Follow your passion. As you increase your state of being, you will perceive of opportunities in your life that are much more conducive to who you prefer to be, and everything will begin to change. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you guys liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Also hit that little notification gear so that you guys can see the daily vids that I do. And other than that, as always, peace, much love, namaste.